Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Reasonably Effective Podcast. I'm Tim Types, as I show my Uncommon Fossil.
Hello, glad to be here today.
Yep, and today we're talking about the top 10 best cards in Standard. There is some, I guess, criteria stuff we need to talk about a little before, not too much, but I'm excited for this. We're considering talking about it before. We end up waiting a little bit, and I'm very excited for this discussion.
Yeah, I'm curious as to how much it'll be the same, how much difference. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of similarities, but the differences are where things get interesting, I think.
Yeah, some of these I'd say like I feel pretty happy with my list. I think there's some where you could definitely argue the order a lot, but I think it is pretty close. There's some that I think, the order, like some are clearly better than others. So I'm excited to see what you have. We've talked about a tiny bit before. We haven't seen each other's list, but I guess let's open them up now unless you want to talk about anything else before that.
No, I don't. I guess the one thing is we're going to count like evolution lines together.
Hmm.
I think, like you said, Dragapult, Drake-Loke will count together. If you're going to do combinations like Lunatone, Solrock, that counts together as well, right? As to one card for this discussion.
Uh, yeah, yeah. And then also, I guess I don't have basic energies. I talked with you. You don't have basic energies on your list. You could make arguments for them. They're honestly pretty hard to rank. I'm not gonna lie. Comparing them to regular
Yeah.
cards, they're obviously very different, but we don't have them on here. If you think the basic energies deserve to be on here, that's fine. Um, yeah, we just don't have them, but they are special in that way.
Yeah, and I will say it'll come obvious as we go through the discussion. Versatility is better for me than something that's specific, type specific or deck specific, and things that help you set up to me are a little bit better than things to close out the game. Just because you got to set up, which you
Yeah,
can obviously make arguments about it, but those are some of my general thoughts that we'll dig more into as during the conversation.
yeah, and I agree with you on both of those aspects. So, anyways, I haven't taken a look at yours, but let's open up each other's now. And okay, so you had an honorable mention here. And yeah, so currently, if you're watching visually, I'm looking at your top 10 list here. It is certainly similar. It's pretty similar. And then I'm looking at mine now. We have obviously some cards in different places. And we
Right.
have two differences, plus you got Yano mention, which I don't have on my list. But yeah, this is definitely interesting. They are similar, but similar in terms of the cards on the list. Some of the rankings are different though.
Right. We got yeah. I'm kind of going through quickly. We got at least two that are identical, a couple that are very different, which will be interesting, but mostly hitting the same cards in there. At some point, we should probably mention other cards. You want to save that to the end, or you want to toss those out now?
Um, I'd say we'll save them till the end, unless some might come up.
Okay,
Yeah, I'd
sounds
say
good.
let's start with the ones that are different. If you're okay with that, I think that could be interesting.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm kind of still noting out the list here, so trying to figure out what the biggest one is. Where do you want to start with on this?
I'll start with the one that I have on my list that you don't have on your list. It is my number 10 card here. And that card is Unfair Stamp. Unfair Stamp, I mean, so it's obviously not your number 11 card. Your number 11 card is Crispin, right? Like, that's what it is.
Yes, yeah, Crispin's number 11. And I had a list of a couple other cards, and I wasn't really considering unfair stamp at all, I gotta say.
Yeah.
So what, go ahead, make the argument for unfair stamp. Obviously, it is a good card. I certainly acknowledge that, but wasn't gonna make the list to me,
Yeah.
for
Oh, and
me.
that is a good thing to acknowledge that. Like, there are lots of cards that are good. Some people are like, that card, this is a card is good. Like, for example, Lottie SEX, right? That card is good. Or like Air
Yes.
Balloon. Air Balloon is actually almost, it was like kind of close to making it. It's not like a crazy broke card, but it is a good card, certainly. And obviously, there's more than 10 good cards in standard. But yeah, I mean, Unfair Stamp here, you can only use it if your opponent was knocked out last turn. So it does limit it in that way. And it is obviously an A spec, which is also a major limitation. However, it is a card that shuffles your hand to your deck, draws 5 on an item here. This is, in terms of setting you up, it's, again, you can be knocked out, but in terms of like drawing a bunch of cards, it is
Right.
one of the best aspects at that. If not like, I mean, what, you got Secret Box, and you have, I guess there's something like Precious Trolley as well, but you're like Unfair Stamp. Unfair Stamp's very good at that. And then also does shuffles your opponent down to, shuffles their hand to the deck and puts them down to 2. It is the best disruptive card in standard by a lot, or at least like trainer there. You look at the other options. You have Judge. Judge is fine. Was that card close to making your list or not really?
No, it wasn't. It's a good card, but
Yeah.
no, I honestly, because I don't have that many supporters, and neither do you, right? So
Yeah. And then there's also oh, sorry, we were on the support thing though. I do think Judge is probably going to be the fourth best supporter. I think that's relatively fair take. I don't know. It gets closer to the category of a lot of those other supporters like Dawn or Brock scouting there, but I do think Judge is probably a little
right.
more universal than those. But anyways, Judge isn't like that good as you're kind of saying, and obviously I don't have it here. And then you look at Special Red Card. I mean, Special Red Card is a similar level of disruption, doesn't draw you cards, and obviously the big thing is it can't be played as early generally. And
Right.
yes, Unfair Stamp is your ace spec, but Unfair Stamp, if you can play it, is essentially always pretty good. I recently actually just cut it from a deck because funnily enough, it had like terrible. It had like just this. It was Mega Frostlass, right? Mega Frostlass. It's not just Mega
Mhm.
Frostlass, but it has Mega Frostlass and Mega Frostlass ones. Lots of cards in your opponent's hand. Unfair Stamp doesn't help with that. It actively hurts it. But Unfair Stamp is really good. I think it's by far the best ace spec. It feels a disruptive role that most decks don't really have to a very high degree. You mentioned previously to me, I don't know if you mentioned this on the podcast, but like you noticed a lot of people playing Turn 1 Judge, which is I'd say annoying, but it's not like crushing or anything like that really. I mean, it could end up being
Right.
crushing just by like random chance, but it could be end up being really good for you, just as is likely there. So the when you look at the other disruption options, Unfair Stamp is a lot better, and then also because you're talking about Prime Catcher, you've been talking about that, and that card is good. When you look at the best ace specs, they fill roles similar to supporters, allowing you to essentially play two supporters. That being said, you could play Prime Catcher and Boss, or you could play Unfair Stamp in Lilies. Playing Prime Catcher and Boss at the same turn is kind of useless. So yeah, playing Unfair Stamp in Lilies in the same turn, you can like just draw a lot. It draws you a lot of cards. It disrupts, which is very important, but it also just draws you a ton of cards, which is super good.
Yeah, look, Unfair Stamp's very good. Obviously, look, it's an ace spec, which means you only get one copy of. So ace specs they're a tricky one in a
Yeah.
list like this to do, right? Because they're essentially, I don't know, they're kind of like supporters in some sense, just because it's a one it's just weird, right?
Yeah.
It's an item, but you can only have one in your deck. So I give it a pretty hefty penalty being in a spec just because there's other a specs. Look, Unfair Stamp is played a ton right now. It is by far the most played a spec. Most people say it's the best ace spec in the game. I personally am not convinced it is though. So that's a big part of why it's not here. Pulling up like the deck lists. I don't know what it is, but it's played in almost every deck at NAIC, which just happened not that long ago. So it was played at there's like 670 some lists or something like that, and there's got to be five, six, probably might be 600 of the lists play Unfair Stamp. So
I don't think it's quite that many, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
it's in 2/3. I think it's in like 3/4 of the list. I think personally, I like Prime Catcher better. Generally because the thing with something like Unfair Stamp, it's disruptive, but you're hoping you get good cards and you're hoping your opponent gets bad cards, right? So you play the card. It's a bit of play and hope too, which I don't like that about it. So I don't love it for that reason. I gotta say, I can disrupt with Judge, it's not as good a disruption, but at least I feel it's more reliable because I can have four copies in the deck. Prime Catcher, I like Prime Catcher because I know what it does, right? Prime Catcher, you take the knockout, right? It does what a boss does. So I personally like a card that I know the results of, right? So
Hmm.
hey, you play Unfair Stamp, might as well play for
Crushing Hammer.
crushing hammers in your deck too, right? Because just go all in on the randomness and hope it all falls your way. So I know you're not a crushing hammer fan, and most people aren't, but um, I just don't like the randomness to it. And also, like I said, it's an A spec, and because it's when you pick an A spec, you're then cutting out every other A spec in the deck as a possibility.
Hmm.
So that's where I think that takes a big toll, right? Cutting out the other ace specs that which isn't true for any other card on the list outside. You can always play another tool if you play a tool, right? So you're just losing a deck slot, but you're not losing that type of card for the rest of getting
Yeah.
eliminated. So
I will say your
that's the
example of
downs.
tool is kind of bad because once you attach a tool to a Pokemon, you can't attach another tool to
No,
that
I
Pokemon.
know,
But yeah,
I know it's a bad example, but you can obviously have other tools in your deck, right?
yeah.
like that. So, obviously you can only play one supporter per turn, but you still can have multiple copies of that supporter, plus you have other supporters in your deck as well. So, um, that's just the unevenness of a discussion like this that's open to any cards. I just kind of made, from me, an A spec was going to have a tough time getting on the list. Unfair Stamp is the top A spec in the game right now, according to most people. So I get why it's here.
Yeah, I get the idea of not, necessarily liking an ace spec on a list like this as well. It was the last card I added. I think I mentioned this
Yeah.
before we started recording. I was like, I had 9 cards I was solid about, which are the same 9 of the cards that you have on your list. And
Yeah.
then I wasn't sure what the last card was going to be. So Unfair Stamp ended up being, I was like, oh yeah, this card sees so much play. It's super good. Also, counterpoint to what you said about, you're saying that you don't like, I don't know if there's a counterpoint, but you don't like cards when you don't know what they do, right? And that makes sense.
Yes.
Also earlier you were saying you like cards that set up more. Unfair Stamp does set up more than Prime Catcher. It's not like really a setup card, but it can kind of be if you're like hiding behind a Bidoof or something. And then you also look at, I mean, in both our lists we have Lilies at the top though, and Lilies you don't know what you're gonna get off of it. And then also Boss is lower, and Boss is even lower for you. Actually, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
lot lower for you. So, yeah. I guess maybe that's because you're playing Prime Catcher, so you don't use as much Boss, and you're not playing Unfair Stamp, so you need more Lilies or something.
Well, okay, yeah, the whole boss. We'll get to that discussion. I'm
Yeah.
I'm surprised how low I ranked it, but yeah. So that's why I didn't have the A spec in part. I get it on the list, so and probably maybe it belongs. And I know you're a Meowth hater, so do you want to go do Meowth next?
Yeah.
Since
Let's talk about let's dog on Meowth.
all
Pun intended.
right, very good. So Meowth, right, with it's awesome on playability.
Yeah, but you can't
And
use
I
your
think
other Pokemon and last ditch abilities.
that's true. Maybe some point they will have something else with it with a last ditch ability, right? So
Yeah, which would just be like
um,
bad because then you also can't Meowth, and the ability is going to be worse than Meowth's ability, and it's also going to like stop you from using Meowth, which is kind of funny.
well, what would be funny though is if they printed they had a card like if they had Pheasandipity's
Yeah.
ability and called it last ditch, and then you have this right, which would make it would actually be pretty interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because you'd still probably play both cards, and it really throws things off for you. So yeah, the fact is it's called last ditch, and you can't use more than one ability that has last ditch in its name. Well, Meowth EX is last ditch catch, right?
Yeah.
So I guess maybe they're going to have last ditch pass or something like
Ye-
that, and maybe
yeah.
a series of last ditch abilities. I guess is what it's setting up. Although, I obviously nothing's happened like that. So
Last ditch pass. That seems like not a very good strategy.
well,
But
to go with catch, right? I don't know.
Yeah,
All right. So well, yeah, you don't want to pass your turn, right? Unless they're bringing back Block Snorlax, then
Yeah,
just pass for turn all game long. But obviously, look, you get a supporter from your deck and put it into hand, so it's a very good ability. The downside, where did I put it on my list? I actually put it above Pheasantipity, which I think Meowth and Pheasantipity are kind of similar, so that's partly why I grouped them together. You would certainly put Pheasantipity above it. We'll get to that, and maybe it belongs there. But Meowth, again, it gets you what you want, right? Pheasantipity gets you random cards. So the fact is, you need a supporter to make your turn happen. As long as you're not, of course, going for the number one supporter for both of us, Lilies, in which case you're Meowthing and then hoping Lilies gets you what you want, and that's not a good feeling. You usually want to Meowth for a boss or Dawn or something that gets you the pieces that you know to make the turn happen, right? So it's a very good card. Cards like this have been super good in the past. I think it's not as good right now in standard for some reason, which I'm still not fully certain of. But what you present the counter argument because you obviously didn't put on your list at all. So
Yeah.
why is the card not good?
Yeah, and I will say I guess considering it, I didn't want to put it on, and I didn't put it on, and I don't think it should be on it. Regarding why it is, I guess in some ways worse than it has been in the past, is harder to search. I guess you're using Ultra Ball. Ultra Ball has a cost. Also, it's like the only way to search this really, as well as some
Yeah.
other. I mean, you can get them with supporters, but I guess you'd be searching those with Meowth or something like that. And searching for Meowth EX with a supporter obviously is not going to be super good. I honestly see people do
Right.
it like all the time. And it's not good usually. I mean, there could be a situation to do it. It's not like it's never the right play. And then they usually play the Meowth EX, and then obviously they don't play the supporter that turn. And sometimes they play a different supporter the next turn. It's very strange.
Okay.
Maybe partially why I'm so biased against this card because again, I don't have it on my list. I think it would be somewhere near probably the 15 through 20 range. I mean, maybe it does come in just below this. I haven't thought super far. I imagine Crispin would be above it, which you have as an honorable mention. Probably
Hmm.
put something like Air Balloon, Lada SCX above it as well. Those are obviously pretty different. But
Yeah.
Meowth EX, I mean, this might just be bias, but like I feel like it gets started a lot and it's really bad to start. It's
Yes.
also like playing it, then you put this liability in play. It's bad to start because you can't use it. And it's like it's not super stuck, but it's kind of stuck. Its attack's pretty bad. I don't think. I mean, I might have seen it used. It could be worse. It gets out of play, which is kind of cool, but it's pretty expensive. And then I mean, it's got 170 HP. That's not so good. It's getting picked off a bunch by lots of different
Yeah.
things. So, and then you search for a supporter, which is nice. It can get you set up in the early game. Um, I'm someone who likes to play lots of supporters. I think it's good to play lots of supporters. I play lots. I play different decks, and I like try out different lists from other people. And I've been trying out a lot of lists that play
Yeah.
Meowth EX and don't play a lot of supporters. And I'm like, sometimes I do Meowth for that supporter, but it doesn't feel great. And then you're using your items to find your Pokemon, or like to find Meowth instead of your Pokemon. So you're using it to find like a Pokemon that's doing something, but then you're like looking for lilies, and then you kind of or something else like that that helps you set up. I don't know. I mean, it's certainly fine, but I'd rather just play a bunch more supporters. Yes, Meowth is one card there. I think people maybe this is just a deck building thing, but people like use Meowth as this like band-aid, and then they have these decks that like never set up. Um, in my experience, and this is me playing with decks of other people, which I obviously everyone has different play styles, but then playing against it again, see people use Meowth EX some. Again, it can be nice for helping you set up in the early game, and it can be useful for finding like boss for game in the late game. Um, but in the late game, if you have like a more like solid draw engine, like an actual draw engine, this gets you one card once, then you can often have your gust for game and the other stuff you actually need to like attack and stuff like that. And then you look at these supporters in the early game, you can just do that by playing more supporters and setting up more, which I think is good. And generally better than playing Meowth EX there. Because Meowth also like if you just run one, it could get prized. If you run a bunch, they can like you don't have the bench space. I don't know. I just feel like it's a little clunky. It's not a super bad card, but also it's a card I currently don't play in. I mean, I'm not playing that many different decks, but I don't really play it. I've cut it from most of the decks I play.
Yeah. All right. First off, let me go back to NEIC for a second because that just is recent. So, uh, Unfair Stamp was played in the majority of decks. I'll go back to the plus for Prime Catchers. Prime Catchers played in the winning deck though, so
Okay.
clearly that's definitive proof there that Prime Catcher is the best ace spec there. Obviously, it's not, but Prime Catcher was not played in a lot of decks. But Unfair Stamp played a lot, but Meowth was played in even more decks. It looks like to
Yeah.
me. So that's a plus for it, right? Because people there obviously put time into their deck building and know what they're doing. Meowth, it gets you, if you can use it when you have a dead start, right? If you have access to it, it gets you set up. The best use case though is you want to hold it off till late game, right? Because it is a two prize liability, and obviously, and you generally aren't recovering it unless it gets knocked out because we don't have a way to get it out of play, or you don't have Penny to press a tourist
Oh yeah.
scenario, something like that. There is the A spec that you could use to get a card up, but I don't think that's a very uncommon situation there. So usually you want to save it late game to close things out. So it's a nice option though. Yes, early game it's like break glass in case of emergency to set up, but otherwise you're holding it off to late game. And then I end up not playing it as much as I probably should in games because I'm always holding off till the turn. I feel like I need it for game, so I need to probably use it a little sooner. But it is valuable. The things that do hurt it, which you got at, is well, one is the fact you can't get out of play, right? Not that you want to get Penny to scoop up the Meowth when you play it down. That'd be pretty stupid. But the fact is, if you played it in like a couple turns later, you had tourist scenario, you had Penny, a way to get it out of play, that would be a good big plus. Both gets rid of liability, and you could recycle it again. reuse it, and then also not having quick ball, right? Obviously, nest ball isn't good, wouldn't work with it because it goes onto the bench. But a card like quick ball that you just discard one that gets you a basic would be good, right? Like you said, the only reliable way to get it is to use ultra ball, and you need the ultra ball 2 cards to discard, which sometimes makes it a little awkward as well. So yes, it does get hurt by the lack of a card. You know, if quick ball got reprinted, a card like Meowth EX would move up in value, and I think you might put it on your list then with a card like Ultra Ball coming back in format.
Quick ball, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
I
so I
mean,
think
Quick Ball.
yeah, I can agree with those. Also, one thing you can get it out of play using like, and this is some people play, which is Chien-Pao with Air Zero Underdepths,
Hmm.
which you can do. I see
Yes.
lots of lists with it in. I'm seeing less. I've actually never seen it happen in a game. I'm sure it has happened, but it like seems really cool, and gets out of play, allows you to kind of theoretically then recover and reuse it. So it has some cool
Yeah.
options. But I also think, I mean, have you seen someone discard their Meowth using Chien-Pao? Maybe I've seen it like once. I don't know. I've seen it when people bump the stadium from time to time as well, other ways.
Right. Well, the awkwardness with the Chien-Pao is you need to have a bench that's big enough, but obviously can't be full, right?
Yeah.
So it's less reliable, assuming you're playing the stadium, right,
Mhm.
yourself with your Terras and whatnot. So, and we do have the new item, right? The one that you play the 2 copies of,
Oh,
the
Transformation
Switch.
Tome. Yeah.
So we could use that to get to make something happen, which is an interesting idea. Obviously, Transportation Tome is a fun card, not a card that's anywhere near making the top 10, but that does give you some options to do some swapping there. But yeah, pretty much the Meowth, once it's in play, it's in play until your opponent knocks it out to take two cheap prizes.
Yeah. Also, I will say another thing. I mean, I don't know. This isn't exactly true, but it's kind of true. It doesn't really, because I was a big fan of Dedenne GX, and that was around that allowed you to dig for certain things. Again, you did have more search as
Hmm.
well. Um, for it, but that card, discarding hand, drew 6, and so you could play it turn going first. You can use turn going first with Carmen, but it's not as good. Also, it does thin out a supporter
Yeah.
from your deck, which can be bad, because then you
Hmm.
remove that for later on. It's not like super terrible, I wouldn't say, but there's something worth noting. Um, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly
Well,
fine, but you can't play it and a supporter as well, like you could with the Dene. I mean, you
right. I
can,
mean,
but
if
sorry, but you can't play, like, all it does is get you the supporter to play.
right. Right. I mean, it is if you're playing Carmen and you want to use Carmen, you want to go first, reliably use Carmen on your first turn, then you need to play Meowth to get just it increases the odds a lot, right?
Mhm.
Meowth and 4 Ultra Balls and 4 Carmen, it gets much more reliable for a deck like that. But then now we're getting into a very specific type of deck, so which then hurts its eligibility. Doesn't really help it with the top 10 overall. Just that lack of being less universal.
Yeah, I think like this card definitely can be good at times. I was honestly expecting because it's the most like the best card I think we've seen that's been printed since rotation, or I guess it was printed with
Yeah.
rotation. Well, okay, technically it was printed before rotation, but this card is it is good. I've seen it
Yeah.
used to be the like to do like doing good stuff. Some I haven't I am lower on it than others, but I also am like, I thought it was going to be good, and I think it's been just fine when I see people play with it. And when I play with it, it feels more mediocre than I was expecting. Again, it's not a bad card, but I feel like
Yeah.
you don't see the high. I mean, you played with it and you played against it a lot. Would you say it's a card that you see the highs of a lot, or is it like you were saying you often held off on it, and then you
Yeah.
kind of just win without it, or is it not enough?
I think what it wants to, yeah, no, it's more mediocre. Where it really has value, I think, is with turbo decks, and turbo decks are down, right? I think we got a lot of slow grindy decks that could going slowly, right? If you had, I felt like with Mega Lucario, it was useful, and it's useful in that deck, right? Still is, but Mega Lucario is not a great deck, right? There, a little disappointing, I thought, considering the tools it had. If it was back in the day with Raging Bolt, right? To
Yeah, with
get
Sadas.
yeah, your Professor Sada's vitality, then Meowth would have a lot of value in a deck like that, right? You just boom, you start smacking huge damage turn one, but that's just not where the game is at right now.
Yeah, I guess yeah, and you're looking at these like really special supporters. We don't really see that. I mean, we see Liz and Boss being good. They're on both our lists. And then you
Yeah.
have like Crispin, which I guess I'd say supports 3 as well. And that card's like not super good. I mean, it's fine. It's not a bad card. It's a decent card, but it's not some crazy supporter. I mean, you mentioned Sada. Sada's has needs energy for this card and only accelerates to some type of Pokemon, but when you play it, it's like really really big in terms of both drawing and accelerating.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the game right now doesn't lend itself to Meowth is being as significant as it could be. I suspect it's going to be around for a couple more years, so it probably will. I'm guessing it'll have a time when it becomes a bigger card in the game than it is right now.
Yeah, that could be a thing. Especially you mentioned like if they reprint some of the type of Pokemon search to help with it. And I do want the card to be good. I think it's like a cool card. Also with better supporters as well. I don't know if you want to talk about Crispin now. I don't know how much you have to say about Crispin. It's not actually on your top 10 there, but it
Right,
is
it's my
on
honorable
mention.
mention. It's just very good, right? Accelerating energies is a good thing. A lot of decks rely on Crispin. We had, you just to attack consistently, power up if you need more than one energy. Crispin gets you your 2 energies, and so you can power up that Pokemon to attack with it in one turn. So it's just very good. I do think it's to me it's all in all the number 3 supporter. You think it probably at least could be the number 3 supporter. It might get a little more debatable what it is, but I think of that number 3 supporter, it's the most universal of them in my mind.
Um, oh yeah. Wait, sorry. What you said of the ones in the debate for number 3
Of the
instance?
potential, like the other number 3 supporters would be things like Dawn, the one that searches what for 2 basics or an evolution, which I'm blanking on the
Yeah,
name now.
Brock's cat. I don't know. I mean, I'd say
Right.
maybe. I mean, also then you have Judge as well, which in my opinion isn't
Oh,
that
that's true.
vain. That's more
Yeah.
because it's universal and it's not going to see it as high counts. I think Crispin's I
Yes.
don't know if a little overrated. I mean, it's fine. Um, it's pretty good. It gets you. It does search 2 energies, but it only accelerates 1 energy. And getting
Yes.
energies into your hand isn't like that good, and you also need different types. Sometimes you have to make sacrifices to your deck, or just like can't play it. Like there are legitimately times when it's like, oh, I've drawn my energies in the wrong order, I can't play it, especially at like the end of the game. That can happen. So it's a solid card. It was like loosely in consideration for that last spot for me, but yeah, it's just pretty good.
It works well with one the best attacking deck in format.
Yeah, Badoo, or I mean, in Dragon Ball.
Right, which when we talk, because obviously, right, it powers up your Dragapult
Yeah.
in one turn, so that is meaningful.
Yeah, it is pretty nice there. And enable something like Monkey Dory as well. Obviously, if you know me, I
Yeah.
don't really love Monkey Dory that much. I think people used to like say crazy things about it. Like people legitimately wanted it banned, which was like absurd. It was like a fine card, and it's still a fine card. But yeah,
Yeah.
like with Crispin it works like decently well with the Dragon Ball. Actually, mixing up your energy types is good for Crispin as well. Bad for playing the deck, you often end up with or bad for just in general. You don't want lots of types of basic energies. It's pretty clunky, but Crispin works well with that. And then I guess we'll move on to Dragapult, which you have at number 10. I have at number 7 on my list. I was considering moving it higher as well. I didn't know exactly, and by this includes Dracloak as well.
Right, which is important because we were talking about it before. If we split up Dragapult and Drake-Loke, we probably neither. It was like, does one of them go in the top 10, or does neither? And probably to me, it's neither goes in the top 10 once you split it up because it's that Drake-Loke's ability is very important to Dragapult's success.
Yeah, and the other way around as well. Dragapult's attack
Yeah.
um, is very important to the deck working as well. They're both
Yes.
very good. Obviously, the 2 energy type isn't actually that clunky and enables Crispin there. And then also you're able to do some spread damage. You have that pretty nice consistent engine. I think it's Dracloak's the most consistent engine in the TCG right now. I don't know if it's the best. Um, it might be. It is pretty good. I mean, the engines in standard are fine. Um, like for a while, I was like, oh, the engines aren't that good, but no, they're fine compared to the times in the past. They're pretty solid. Andrew Cloak is pretty solid. It's not broken, but it is good.
Yeah. Look, I don't think Drake Loke is the best of the engines. If it was, I might have put, obviously we both put Dragapult here. If Dracoloak was the best best engine in the game, then I might have put Dracoloak
Case.
down. I look for engines. I think, and I would have loved to have seen an engine card on here. Unfortunately, like especially a single prize engine.
Well, we have
Like
Pheasantipede,
obviously
which is kind of it's like part of an engine, alongside
it's
Meowth and Hangouts often.
yeah. But the Pheasantipede doesn't work until you're knocked out. So an engine to me should help you set up. And Pheasantipede is a only it's a bit more countery, right? Because you have to be
Yeah.
knocked out. So
Hmm.
it's not it's like it's kind of an engine, is what I'll say. And Zoroark may be the best engine in the game. I'm not sure. Engine Pokemon for reliability, I think it might be. It's better than Dracoloak to me. Uh, you know, uh, the Dunsparce is very good, and if you have the right type of deck, Noctowl would be the best, but it's limited to certain decks.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, we don't need to talk about Duntress now. That's not for
No,
today, but or wherever. But yeah, I mean, the Dracloak is very good, or it's pretty good. I definitely say it's in a similar caliber to all those other ones, even if it's not necessarily as good. It's close, and then attached to like arguably the best Pokemon, the best attacker in the game. And has synergy with a lot of the best cards in the game as well. You play like all the ball search. You can do like, just lots of different good things. I don't know how much there's to say about Dragapult. I mean, we could spend a long
well,
time theoretically, but I don't think we will.
let me just say a couple. First off, I don't. We didn't say where it placed on the list, so if people are
Oh
listening,
yeah,
we
I
need
think
to
I
hit that. So
maybe not.
it's number 10 on my list. So and it's number 7 on yours. So it's solidly in the top 10 in yours. It was the fringe top 10 for me. What I'll say is what hurts it is it's only one deck, right? Dragapult is its own deck, and nothing else is its own deck made the list for either of us. And in Dragapult it is the best deck in standard right now. There's no doubt about that. It's also not only just the best deck, but it's like the best deck by a huge gap. I think if it was the best deck with a few other decks that were a little bit below it, to me, I probably would not have made it a top 10 deck. But it's an S tier deck, and potentially there is no A tier. It almost falls down to B tier after it, and that's why I put Dragapult on the list. But I put it at 10 for me because it is its own deck. It's not obviously the opposite of Universal.
Um, yes. I mean, you could put Dracloak in lots of different decks. I feel like that's kind of. I'm
Yeah.
wondering if this is what people do. They're like, okay, well, I'll put Dracloak in the deck. I'm like, okay, well, to make it better, I guess I should put Dragapult in, and then they take out the other stuff, and they're stuck with Dragapult. Um, but yeah, I mean, Dragapult's like played a lot. It's probably played more than some of these other cards. I'm wondering if it's how much it's played compared to Badoo. Um, yeah, but anyways, it's played a lot, and it's very good. I mean,
Yeah.
like if you look at something like, I mean, there's the cards. They are good. For example, Night Searcher, very good card. I like that card a lot.
Yep.
That's not going to be the card that is winning you the game. Really, like none of the trainers are winning. Almost none of these other cards are winning you the game. They can help you get there. Boss kind of sort of can, I guess. And
Right.
the rest, like, don't really do that. They power something up or get something set up, and the thing you're getting set up is the thing that actually is winning you the game. If you're like a new player, you probably focus on that too much, but it is still important to actually have an attacker, and they are usually the most important. I don't know if the most important parts of the deck, they're not necessarily the card you're most looking to draw, but they are the card that actually does the thing that you need to win the game, and Dragapult EX is that card.
Yeah, no, Dragapult's a tremendous card. And like you said too, in terms of cards that have been printed since rotation, that Meowth EX, I think you said was the strongest of the cards, and obviously nothing's been done that challenges Dragapult as the best deck in format.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think that's gonna happen. Based on what we've seen, I think Pitch Black and Delta Rain, and then certainly the 30th celebration. That looks pretty bad, unfortunately, are going to challenge it. But we'll see,
Yeah.
I suppose. People always like to hype up stuff. I like to hype up stuff. I think you like to hype up stuff. A little less than me, though. I might be a bit more clear about it, I guess. But maybe not. I don't know. Maybe you're just down and stuff. Well, nah, you like to hype up some stuff too. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, Dragon Ball is super good. I think, like legitimately, there's a case to be made that it belongs at the top of the list as well, based on how it's defined the
Yeah.
metagame. I wouldn't put it. Obviously, I didn't put it there, but I think there was like an argument to be made for that.
Yeah, because either you're playing Dragapult or you're playing something that not just can deal with Dragapult, but that really is built to beat Dragapult. pretty much.
Yeah.
So therefore, it just defines everything in the game. So if you want to put it at the top of the list potentially, I get that argument.
Yeah. And obviously, that's why I have it a little higher. I was considering putting it maybe a little higher. I guess now let's talk about, I'm kind of jumping around a little here, but the cards that are
Okay.
above it for me, we'll talk about these three together, which are Pokeball, Ultra Ball, Buddy Buddy Poffin, the quote ball search cards, which, search for Pokemon. That's where that term comes from. Like, I guess Pokeball, which does it sometimes, and Great Ball, which also
Yes.
search for Pokemon sometimes. I guess it doesn't even like really search. So, but there are different cards like that, which like Quick Ball and things like that. But anyways, so these three are good. Pokepad searching for a non-rule box Pokemon, Ultra Ball searching for any Pokemon to discard two cards, and Buddy Profit searching for two basics with 70 HP or less, and putting them onto your bench. And so they do go directly onto your bench as well. Buddy Profit searches for the most cards. Pokeball and Ultra Ball each search for one, but obviously Ultra Ball loses you cards, so Ultra Ball is the most like the casts the widest net, but has the biggest
Yeah.
cost. But anyway, Poffin is the narrowest, but gets the most value there, and then Pokepad's somewhere in the middle. How did you rank them? So we rank them in different order, which is interesting to
Yeah.
see. But yeah, tell me about them. And you have them. You have Buddy Poffin at 2, Pokepad at 3, Ultra Ball at 4. I have Pokepad at 3, just like you. Ultra Ball at 5, and Buddy Poffin at 6 there.
Yeah. First off, I put them all together somewhat intentionally, just because they're all very good. These are really backbones of your deck cards, right? You got to get your Pokemon, or things don't happen. These are the key cards to make that happen for most decks, and it is depending on what type of deck you're playing. Which one's better is situational, right?
Mhm.
So. That's partly why I put them together. The biggest discrepancy here is with Buddy Buddy Poffin.
Yeah.
Um, Look, Ultra Ball in one sense you can argue is the best. It's both. It's the middle for both of us, but or no, it's the bottom for me. It's the only one that gets you rule box Pokemon, which obviously for most decks is the key to things happening. So therefore, Ultra Ball super great with that. Obviously, discarding two is not always the best thing, so that's the downside. I think obviously it's a very balanced card. I think they're all fair cards.
Yeah.
The reason I put Buddy Buddy Poffin at the top, and I had it at second, you put it down at
6. Yeah.
what,
Or wait,
six. So
that's
that's
6. Yeah.
that's a decent little spread there.
Yeah.
Um, it get Since we live in a world of Dragapult and decks, a lot of decks like that, where they're evolution based decks, and we're not in the VMAX era or V Star era, where you have a V, you're not evolving from rule box to a rule box, you're evolving from a non-rule box up to a rule box. Most of the basic cards then for the basic pre-evolutions that evolve to EXs are qualified under Buddy Buddy Poffin. It gets you two Pokemon in play, and it just gets you going really well. So I think it's probably, to me, the most basic of the cards. Pokepad is important for decks, but it depends on the deck, right? Obviously, if you're playing like Dragapult, it gets you your Dracloak. If you're playing Alakazam, obviously a deck like that, super awesome there. But I think to me, Pokepad and Ultra Ball are closer in terms of what they do, right? They both get you evolved Pokemon, slightly different ones depending on what you're looking on. So to me, I feel like Buddy Buddy Poffin is the card that sets up to make the other Pokemon search cards happen.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree that Buddy Poffin is obviously, the best for setting up in a lot of decks. There are certainly some decks that it doesn't work in. The same thing with Pokepad there. But yeah, it is very good for that. That being said, obviously it is not in all of the decks. I'd say it's a similar selection to
Yeah.
decks as Pokepad. However, there are times, especially when you get to later game, Buddy Poffin's kind of useless. When I say kind of useless, it's even worse than something like Pokepad, where if you don't need a Pokemon, at least you can like thin stuff out of your deck. You can at least play. You can play Buddy Poffin with a full bench there. If you didn't know,
Yeah.
you can't play it because it can't work, so you're not allowed to. And yeah, I mean that's like a bit of an annoyance. And then in terms of setting up, you need your basics and your evolutions if you're looking at like Dracloak there. And if you have two Pokepads, then you can get a basic in a stage one.
Yeah.
And if you have two Buddy Poffins, you can just get a bunch of basics. Obviously, a Buddy Poffin and a Pokepad would be better there than two of both, but both of these cards are they are nice for getting your basics. Buddy Poffin is going to be better, but then I mean, you're gonna see four by Poffin. You're not really looking to play for. You're
Yeah.
you're looking to play for Pokepad potentially play for Ultra
Right.
Ball. Obviously a big reason you play a lot is to hit it more in the early game, and Buddy by Poffin turn one's nice, but like, sometimes you see someone they're like they get Buddy by Poffin turn one like wow that's lucky, that's really good. You see them play like a second one, you're like wow that's crazy, and you see them play like a third one, you're like wow okay they did not need that. Like for them they did not need that. Even the second one, like a second one is okay. Um, but I'd rather have like something else, and then I don't know, it just like can fall off a little bit. It's certainly very good. I'm not gonna sit here and deny that, but it's not really enough on its own. Unlike Ultra Ball, obviously there are things like Meowth EX, there's also Facetip EX, Mankanga's Kind EX, and then obviously it can get you your attacker as well. Pokepad can often get you engine stuff. I mean, with Duclo, it gets you an engine thing.
Yeah.
So those cards can mostly get you out of a bad situation. Buddy Boy Poffin can't. Buddy Boy Poffin's more, I guess, high rolly in that sense. And when I'm looking for items and setup cards, I'm looking for more consistency. Not that Buddy Boy Poffin isn't a strong consistency booster, or very good. It is very good, but it's just not. I feel like, it's not always exactly what I'm looking for, and doesn't give as much versatility as those other cards, which is a substantial downside.
Okay. Yeah, look, like you said, you play four Buddy Buddy Poffin usually when you're playing it because you need to get it early because it's key to setting up. But then the value does fall off, and yeah, if you end up with like four Buddy Buddy Poffin at the start of the game, I would probably play all four of them, and I'm gonna fail on one or two of them partly just to get them out of the way, right? I get my like four Pokemon to play, which I only need to play two, and I just want to ditch the other two, right? Just to thin my hand and thin my deck, right? In a
Mhm.
sense like that. So. But partly I also think Buddy Buddy Poffin gets a boost by the way a lot of these decks work because one of the cards which we'll be talking about is you get your Badoo down and then you attack with Badoo and then you just slow the game down, which is just how a lot of these decks are built. So therefore, assuming you're playing Badoo and in pre-evolutions, you're really getting two Buddy Buddy Poffin at the early game. I think is important a lot of times. So that's kind of ultimately, I can make the argument between Pokepad, Ultra Ball, Buddy Buddy Poffin at different times. I think they all could be viewed as the top of those cards.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. Yeah, they all have their strengths, they all have their weaknesses. Or I say weaknesses, they're like relative weaknesses. They're just things that the others can do that it doesn't. They are all very good though. But then you want to talk about Badoo now?
Yeah. So so Badoo for me is number 6 on the list, and for you it's number 9. So you see it as just it's a meaningful difference there. It just seems like so often in the game, you either want to go first just to kind of get your basics down so you can evolve the next turn, or even more so, a lot of times you just want to attack with Badoo turn one, stopping your opponent from playing items while you get your deck set up, right? It feels like most decks today, Badoo just becomes this piece that attacking with Badoo turn one is the goal so often, and obviously no energy for retreat, so you're just getting things set up behind it. It is obviously very vulnerable. Obviously, Dragapult just knocks out the Badoo, plus gets 3 damage kind of spread around. But since you're playing for the most part rule box Pokemon you're attacking with, giving up one prize doesn't necessarily hurt you as long as they're not taking out your pre-evolutions. Of course, that's always a danger there. But Badoo is just it's just so almost game defining, right? It seems like everybody's playing Badoo, and you're just used to, obviously at this point you're going to have to deal with Badoo every time you start a game.
Yeah, I think it's a good card. There are times. So I think also a point at which people are a little high on Badoo, but it was like pretty annoying at times and pretty useless at times. If your opponent has mostly what they need in their hand, and also we usually like Meow. Sometimes people like have Meow, they like get all the stuff they need. Um, but it definitely really slows decks down. Now, I will say we don't really see hand disruption in I mean, we don't have Iono. We have Judge, which you see some, but your opponent can just like play their items turn one going first to get like their evolutions and stuff, and that's generally fine. But with
Yeah.
Badoo, I think that you see this card, it's like your opponent can often just like kind of get through it pretty easily. Um, I don't know. I mean, so I play a lot of Badoo. How much Badoo do you play? Do you play a lot or not that much?
Yeah, no, Badoo's, yeah, I play a fair amount of Badoo, and then a lot of times with evolving decks, to me, it's a tricky decision between do I want to go first if I get the choice to get myself so I can evolve and attack with my evolved Pokemon first, or do I want to go second so I can hit them with Badoo and slow them down? And it's kind of often a bit of an even split to me of which is better.
Yeah. My main deck is a Dragon Ball Frostlass deck, which plays two Badoo. Badoo is a very important part
Yeah.
of the game plan, and with that deck, it runs, Badoo, and it's something I want to get into. Turn going second, it's like something I can need to kind of commit some resources to send up. It's not terrible. It is very doable, but it's still something worth mentioning. And then also it gets like knocked out pretty easily, especially due to like Mokidoris. That happens a bunch, and it can be
Mhm.
an issue. Just having fruit tree is really nice as a pivot there, though. Um, I mean, it's good. Also,
Yeah.
like again, there are times that it doesn't really slow your opponent down though, and then you're just spending some resources, not that many, but some resources to do essentially nothing there. But it is very good at disruption. It doesn't go in every deck though. You're looking at it. You mentioned it with
No.
Butter Puff, and that's the decks that see play in. Really, really mostly. You could play in other things as well, but it's good. I don't have too much to say about Badoo right now. I think if anywhere it might actually be a little underrated. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm surprised at how like highly you think of Badoo as well. Well, I don't know if highly, like how good you think Badoo is. Because
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I don't see it as much anymore. I feel like a lot of people are looking to go first, and yeah, I mean Badoo is pretty good against that. Really disrupts a lot of decks. There's not too much you can do about it. I will say though, I tend to play more support as I say this, and so I can set up through Badoo a little more. I'm running a lot of decks that run four lows for Explorer's Guidance, so that'll help me kind of get through. I suppose then you can get like you lose stuff and you can't like Night Stretcher back as easily, but it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, looking like at NAIC, Badoo's in a lot of decks. It's in probably every Dragapult list. I'm not looking at every list, but it's mostly in Dragapult. Ends a little Grimmsnarl Frostlass, but it's kind of a counter. It's a piece of Dragapult, a very key piece to it. The thing that makes the Badoo really good that would just if they changed it, it would take it off the list. Is the fact that the attack is for free, right? It lets you power up something else on your immediately, which is really good. So if they put an attack cost of one, all of a sudden Badoo would probably just not be a played card with a small change like that.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I will say like changing your attack cost by one. That's true for like most
Yeah.
Pokemon that attack. Like if Dragapult is three energy, um, or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, I will like see Frillish and standard. Frillish isn't super good, and it has better stats than Badoo, other than obviously that attack cost there. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, but Badoo's good though for slowing people down. If you want to counter it, play more supporters. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, like in some sense, it might be better if Badoo wasn't it makes the games a little less fun, perhaps, just makes it a bit more grindy, but it's here, and obviously it's sticking around. What do we have? One more year, and it rotates, I think, right?
Yeah. Um,
Okay.
and then I guess we'll move on to Fez and Dipty EX now. We actually both have it at the 8 slot. The cards around it are pretty different. Um, but yeah, I mean this card is good. I used to love this card. I now actually don't play it too much either. Draw three cards if you're knocked out last turn. You have an
Mm.
attack which is like okay as well. But doing this draw three is quite nice, really getting you out of somewhat sketchy situations. Um, yeah, just draws cards. It's pretty low commitment. It's not too much of a liability. It can be a liability, but it's like it's nowhere near Meowth. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's just good. Draws you cards. It can work in like most decks. It can work in any deck, to be honest. There's a point at which I would say like you should play it like all the time, and it should be like I was considering playing as a two of. I will say, people like never really play it as a two of. It's like if you legitimately think it's like super super good, there are times to consider it as a two of, because it's a card that um it's really good, right? So still play more copies.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say about it. But it is good.
No, I mean, unless I'm scrolling through NAIC, it's in probably 90% of the deck list, and that might even be low when I say that. So, in a great variety of almost every type of deck that I'm seeing here, it's a part of. So it's very good. It's one of those cards. It's a support Pokemon. It's a two prize support Pokemon, but a lot of times you might even slap it down turn one when you know you can't use it. Obviously, you might get bossed up. And that gets frustrating then. or obviously you could give up two prizes, but because Judge is a format, I would still think about slapping it down just because I know I'm going to want it in play soon enough. So its ability very, very good. And in a lot of ways, it is the engine, a core engine piece to a lot of decks. But like I said before, it's a response engine. That's what I don't like about it in terms of an engine. But what it does is just really good. So if we didn't have that, late things would be much less consistent late game. That's really what it does. It helps you out to be late game. Is once both decks are functioning, you're taking knockouts. Now I have three cards, random cards, but then three random cards plus like boss or ultra ball, something like that will get me the pieces I need. So three randoms plus one or two trainers, focus trainers will usually get you what you need. So it is very good.
Yeah. And the reason I've been playing it, I mean, sometimes I've been playing. As I said, my main deck's been Dragon Ball Frostlass. It's mostly maintaining a single prize board state, and it struggles some with bench space, so I don't have it. And it is a little hard to search without Nest Ball as well, but it is still very
Yeah.
good. Worth it in most decks, unless you have some very good reason not to play it, but you generally should play it. There. Then I guess let's move on to, let's see, where is there something you want to go? What haven't we talked about? Boston Lilies, is that
Uh,
it? Oh, and
and
Stretcher.
Night Stretcher.
Yeah. Okay.
So go ahead.
Yeah. Let's talk Night Stretcher. I guess I have Night Stretcher at 2. You have it at
Yeah.
5. I mean, this card almost functions as Pokemon Search, allowing you to get a Pokemon or a race against you from your discard pile into your hand, and then yeah, I mean it's recovery as well. It is the best recovery card. It's the main recovery card as well, and
Yeah.
then it also like gets you cards that you need in a late game when you've discarded a lot of stuff. Night Stretcher can be. It often is going to be an out to win the game. A lot of people talk about boss game at the end of the game, but Night Stretcher is often one of those cards that you need or that will get you there. If it's not the only piece, it is a piece that gets you there and covers a lot of options. It's super versatile. It's quite powerful, and yeah, I play it as a 4 in a lot of decks. I don't play it as a 4 in every deck, but I mean I play it as a 4 a lot, and I think utilizing it well. I mean I talked about Explorer's Guidance, which really exemplifies the power level of Night Stretcher, but even without that, it's still super good.
Yeah, I mean, so I put it obviously significantly lower. You put it at 2. I put it at 5, which is a big difference. I put it behind the Pokemon search items, just because getting the Pokemon in play is, you have to do that early on, right?
Mhm.
Otherwise, nothing's very helpful. Night Stretcher does work well with Ultra Ball in that sometimes you can discard a Pokemon that you're gonna need to play later in the game, like an evolution Pokemon, figuring I can Night Stretcher it back. The fact that we don't have Rod in format makes Night Stretcher all the more important. We have Sacred Ash and we have Energy Recycler to get energies and Pokemon back into the deck. Obviously, it gets it to hand, which is even better. But a card like Rod that gave some combination of Pokemon and basic energies into the deck, then you'd probably, to me, you'd have a split of Night Stretcher and Rod. We don't have that, so we're basically just playing Night Stretchers to get them into hand. It works, but there's not a lot of Pokemon recovery in a lot of decks. I mean, a lot of decks to me seem like they're kind of like two Night Stretcher decks, which means you can't recover much over the course of the game, and you may have to do an energy too. So you're recovering like one Pokemon over the course of the game. It gets a little dicey, I think. So playing like 4 copies is good. It's a really good card. Obviously, putting it at second, I have no issue with that. I just think, to me, the Pokemon search cards get you set up, so you need those earlier in the game. They're both kind of equally as valid. Night Stretcher is unique, whereas the three Pokemon search items they overlap a lot. So therefore, I can see putting Night Stretcher ahead because it is more unique in the game. And it is just one of the best cards in the game. To me, it's a card that I forget about when I think about the best cards in game because it's kind of generic and vanilla in a certain sense, but it is super, super critical too.
Yeah. Also with like, the setting up, yes, it doesn't really help you set up like turn 1, but as early as turn I'd say you're looking at like turn 3. It becomes
Yeah.
as good as, if not better, at essentially setting up or getting you the cards you need,
Hmm.
compared to the ball search cards, the item like true search cards. So it's very,
Yeah.
very good in that regard. And again, if you mess
Hmm.
around with more discard stuff, which I have been messing around with, I made some like videos on, um, then those, like, I think it has untapped potential. I think it is a little underrated. I don't think it's like um broken. I mean, it's really good. It's really good though. If you're familiar with Versus Seeker and Expanded, I'd say it's very similar to that. I'd say it actually probably is better. Versus Seeker is very special and enables different gameplay patterns, and it's paired with Valve Compressor. But um,
Yeah.
Night Search is amazing.
It is. Look, as the game goes on, you're attacking Pokemon, so it's getting knocked out most of the time. So it gets your attacker back. Obviously, if it's a basic attacker, then you get that, and you can play it, and you can attack with it the following turn. If it's an evolution attacker, then hopefully you'd have the pre-evolutions in play, but you should be getting that going anyway, knowing you need it. So you get your Pokemon in play, or if you have the Pokemon, it gives the versatility of the energy as well. So yeah, just a really, really good card. I don't know, there's not much else I can say.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's one of the shortest cards in terms of text on this list, and it's
Yeah.
very good for that reason. Speaking of short cards with text, I mean, a lot of these cards aren't actually that complicated. Boss Orders, though, is actually, I believe, the shortest card in terms of text on this list. Boss Orders, switching one of your opponent's bench to the active on a supporter, gusting. It's an effect that most decks need. Generally
Yeah.
to close out games, or to sometimes trap Pokemon, often just to like close out games though, or take knockouts, not necessarily at the end, but at some point.
Right. Either late game, obviously, if they have especially if you've damaged like a multi-prize Pokemon that you weren't able to knock out, then you want to be able to gust it up to like knock it out for game. Or if you're playing with Dragapult, you'd have now their multi-prize Pokemon, the Roblox Pokemon, down to 60 HP or less. You want to send it to the bench so you can finish it off with the damage counters being placed and do big damage, or ideally knock out something else in the active. Really good there. Keeps your opponent from hiding. It lets you gust up the Meowth, the Pheasantipity, knock those out. So Boss is one of those kind of game-winning cards. And I've said I like cards that you know what it's going to do, and therefore, in a certain sense, maybe I put Boss too low. Because I put it in the ninth on your list. You
Oh,
have it in fourth on your list. So it's a big difference there. So kind of the way I've talked about my criteria, Boss probably should be higher. I was surprised when I put together the list that I put it as low as I did. But I feel like it's appropriate at 9 to me. Maybe Meowth EX should be lower, and maybe even below Boss, because Meowth, you're going to get Boss as one of the key cards to get for it. So why not just have the Boss in the first place? But yeah, controlling what you're hitting into is really good, really important for the game. And obviously, you do have those games that you boss just to stall things out, right? When things just aren't setting up for you, you boss and you hopefully slow down your opponent, which isn't the ideal situation, but it's good having that as an option in it. But boss, very, very, very powerful supporter. It's been around in the game. It feels like forever, and just been one of the top supporters forever.
yeah. It's been very good for a very long time, and I'm happy it is in the game. Some people don't like it in the game. I mean, maybe mix it up could be a little good, but I'm certainly fine with it in the game. And yeah, Boss is very good. It's not the best card in the game, specifically comparing it to like these setup cards. If you have it in a dead hand, you're not really doing too much. You mentioned like stalling your
Right.
Pokemon out. That's it. That's the only thing you're doing, and that's not that good. So,
Yeah.
yeah, a boss is very good at the end of the game and sometimes in the middle of the game, and it is mostly unique in what it does. You mentioned Prime Catcher a lot earlier, and of course you have Snipe as well, which can do something similar. Obviously, it depends on the situation, the type, and stuff like that, but Boss is good. I'd certainly rather have Lilies in my hand than Boss most of the time, but Boss is still very, very good.
Yeah, look, I mean, early game, obviously, Boss Lilies is the better card almost always, but Boss late game, having access to Boss is really, really important through. Obviously, we have Meowth EX that even though it's not your top 10, you know it's a good card. And I often will like to play Pokegear 3.0. You don't like that as much, which is a random card. I get that, but if you play high supporter counts, Pokegear 3.0, you're gonna be hitting a good supporter relatively consistently too with that. So, Boss is a good card, not the best card, but a very, very good card.
Yeah. And speaking of the best card, we will have Lily's Determination at the top, shuffle draw six, or at the beginning of the game, or I guess before your opponent, sorry, before you have taken any prizes, you shuffle draw eight. So you can control this
Yeah.
as you're setting up at shuffle draw eight. That is very good. Even shuffle draw six is still pretty good. And yeah, so was there any question about this being the best card in the game for you?
No, I don't think there's any card that comes close to it.
Yeah.
At all. No, it's just the best card because it starts your game. And I don't like cards that are random, right? For sure. But just getting you play down the cards you have in hand that you already have, and then you get eight new cards at the start of the game. So you're gonna almost always get yourself set up enough, right? As long as you can lilies on your first turn. So,
Yeah.
and then obviously as the game goes on, it's really good as well.
Yeah. Um, Obviously you don't necessarily know what you're gonna do. Sometimes I see someone lilies. The next turn they play another lilies and they don't like play any cards in their hand. That can happen. I feel like that shouldn't happen that much.
Yeah.
I feel like I see it happen a lot more than it really should. But yeah, I mean it's very good. If I'm judging, funnily enough, I'm looking at your top 10 here and I'm like looking through the top, five, which are on a row, and from left to right is the order of I want to see them in my opening hand. And how like if I
Mhm.
see it, how confident am I in my opening hand? Lilies, if I see
Yeah.
that card in my opening hand, I'm like, this is a good hand. It can literally be like okay, admittedly, sometimes I see a hand, I'm like, this is a good hand, and it's like it's not actually good. It's like lilies and then a bunch of unplayable cards. But I'm like, this is fine. Yeah, I can lilies. Um, yeah, I mean, it can get you out of it. Sometimes it is like just hoping you get something better. Obviously, lilies on its own doesn't really do anything, but it draws you so many cards. Like we saw the supporter
Yeah.
Cynthia shuffle draw six being quite good. See Professor's Research, just go hand draw seven. Iono shuffle hand put on the bottom, draw six at the beginning of the game. These are all
Yep.
powerful draw supporters and this draws eight. Like it's like everyone saw this card and was like, this card is kind of broken. And it's I mean not like I wouldn't say it's a problem. It's kind of crazy how like so this was pre-rotations. It was still the strongest draw supporter. But there's some close ones like Research and Iono. And then post
Yeah.
rotation, it's like not close at all. The second place supporter in terms of like the amount of cards you could see would actually be. I mean there were search supporters, but in terms of like draw or cards to get you anything, I would be something. Actually, I talk about this card a lot, and I'm sure you're rolling your eyes, but it is something like Explorer's Guidance or the new Gwen supporter, seeing six, which is like, and you're like losing lots of cards. They're kind of situational and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, Lily's, I mean, okay, yes, you do shuffle, so you don't necessarily see the same cards, and those draw you cards. This doesn't draw you cards, or sorry, it does, but it like loses you your hand. It's not just draw,
Right.
but it's you see so many cards. It's so crazy good. This card. I'm so happy it's in the game because setting up's good. I will say people are like, I think some people run less draw, like because they're like, I don't want to support that's a lot worse than Lily's. Like, yeah, but that's what we got, right? Lily's is really
Right.
good, and the next best option is not going to be as good. But yeah, I mean, if you get Liz in your opening hand, it is really good. In some ways, this is why Meowth is nice, but I don't know. I'd say using Meowth for Lily's doesn't feel like amazing. Just playing Lily's though feels amazing. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah. Look, no, playing lilies is great, and it is in a lot of ways. It is probably a broken card. I gotta say because it really is that good. But it doesn't feel like a card we have to get rid of in the game. It's not
Yeah.
like ban lilies, and I think the reason for it is it helps me set up, right? It helps me set up, or helps my opponent set up them, but it doesn't disrupt, right? If it was lilies was helping me set up massively and disrupting my opponent, we'd get really upset from it, but it's just helping the one player set up, and people setting up is a good thing, right? The game, you're not harming your opponent, so therefore it's okay. Is it a little too good? Maybe. I mean, obviously, like they could have nerfed this card by you draw seven to start with, and you draw six, five. You had a prize, and would it still be the top card? I don't know. It'd be close to it, right?
Yeah, it'd
Um,
be very good.
so when and that's a big change. Dropping like draw by a card is a huge nerf to a card, but it's still like potentially the best or one of the best cards in game. Means they made lilies probably a little better than they needed to, but it's not to the harm of the game. It helps consistency, which it just makes the games more enjoyable, really.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I don't know, maybe, like people complained about Iono, people complained about unfair stamp. Unfair stamp, I mean, it
Yeah.
has unfair in the name. But like Iono is a pretty fair card, and people complained about it. I would say, I mean, it can be annoying. I'm not gonna lie. I'm sure at some point I complained about it. And Lily's, you know, um, it's good, but yeah, it doesn't feel unfair. It feels very powerful, but yeah, it's very, very good.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, no, just a good card. Real, well, not just a good card, a great card, but like I said, yeah, it's not a card that people are getting upset about. Obviously, a card like Armani's back in the day, obviously, again, those disruptive cards are where people get unhappy. You know, games that where neither person sets up aren't fun games generally. So, card like Lily's, yeah, it's good for the game, I think. So, I would say don't print it quite, make it quite as good next time. We'll see down the road what they do. But yeah, a very good card and not a problematic card at the same time.
Yeah. Also, you said it was like very clearly the best card in the game, and I said so as well. It's like jarringly more powerful than certainly the supporters outside of maybe Boss. I do think
Yeah,
Liz is a lot better than Boss. I don't think it's super close. Um, because again, like Boss in the early game is useless. Boss in the late game is sometimes really good. Lily's in the early game is the best card in the game. Lily's
yeah,
in the mid game is still probably better than Boss, and then Liz in the late game isn't as good as Boss. Boss might be the best card in the game late game, or like Night Stretcher, but then Lily's is still like okay, like you're not. I mean, if you need specifically a card to win, like Boss, Liz isn't that, but it can get you there. If you need a card like an energy and you top deck Liz, you're like, okay, maybe I'll get the energy, right?
right. I mean, there's obviously situations where a card like Crispin or Dawn is the better card or Boss, but especially compared to like, well, Crispin accelerates energy, so the Lilies doesn't do that. But a card like Dawn, obviously, if that's what you all you need, you're gonna play Dawn, but you still might hit it with Lilies, get those cards, or you get the items that get those Pokemon for you still. So, well, yeah, it's obviously it's super universal, super powerful, so easily in the top spot for both our top tens.
Yeah, and I honestly think it should be a four event like every deck. I sometimes like it's not a four event every deck, but I feel like it should be. It is four event most decks, but like I was looking at like Alexander's, like yeah, obviously you don't want to like Lily's. You're like 30 card hand away, but
Yeah.
also if you have a 30 card hand, I'm sure you could find something else to play. Or you might not be able to find it, but you will have something else to play. Like you'll probably have like you don't need those four copies of Dawn in your hand. You're fine with a couple. So yeah, obviously they're better for setting up, or they're useful for setting up, but so is the Liz, right? So yeah, I mean this card is just super good in like every style of deck as well. It is universal, it's powerful. Yeah, I don't know, it's interesting. I don't know where it ranks against like in all time best cards ever. I'm sure it's not the best card ever. We've seen some broken cards. Liz isn't truly, truly broken, but it is cool, and I'm glad we both agree it's like relatively good for the game as well.
Yeah, no, it's not like a broken card that's gonna get has to be like banned and expanded. And even more recent, although it depends what you call recent, like a card say like the Dene GX, which was very good. That might be better than Lily's. That's kind of at the level that I would think Lily's is. Obviously, they're different cards, but a card like the Dene GX, Lily's probably close in terms of all-time power rankings, I would think.
Yeah, I'd probably say. I mean, I loved Today GX, but I think Lily's is
Yeah.
better.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah, I think this was a really interesting discussion. But tell us in the comment section on our YouTube channels, 10 types in Uncommon Fossil, what your thoughts are here. Obviously, we agreed on a lot of these, but we had some disagreements as well. I still stand behind the things I said, and I imagine you do as well. But like, it is a pretty interesting discussion. Obviously, ours were similar. So tell us if there's any of these that we like both share that you think are just like not very good, for whatever reason, or any cards that we just completely missed. Tell us again on our YouTube channels, but also make sure you subscribe and like on our YouTube channels. But you can also listen to us on podcasting platforms if you want to. But we hope you all enjoyed, and as always, we're excited to see you in the next episode.
Take care.